You're standing in front of the mirror, flexing your biceps, and thinking how to strike that ideal balance growing lean muscle while concurrently reducing undesired fat. It seems like an insurmountable job, doesn't it? Well, what if I told you there's a product that's been proved time and time again to help you achieve exactly that? Enter creatine, the hidden hero of the fitness industry that's been helping athletes and bodybuilders reach their objectives for decades. Let's cut to the point. Creatine is a powerhouse when it comes to aiding lean muscle building while lowering fat, and the science behind it is interesting. At its heart, creatine works by improving your body's capacity to manufacture energy swiftly, especially in the form of ATP adenosine triphosphate, which is vital for high-intensity, short-duration sports like weightlifting. But that's only scraping the surface of what this extraordinary molecule can achieve. When you're in a calorie deficit, which is crucial for fat reduction, your body is effectively battling against itself. It strives to cling onto every ounce of energy it can, sometimes at the price of your hard-earned muscular mass. This is where creatine comes in like a knight in shining armor. By improving your body's energy production capacities, creatine helps you to maintain, and in some circumstances even enhance, your strength and performance in the gym while being in a caloric deficit. This means you may continue to boost muscle development and retention even while decreasing fat. But let's go further into the mechanics at play here. Creatine acts via numerous channels to assist your body composition objectives. First and foremost, it raises the water content in your muscle cells, a process called as cell volumization. This may seem like it's simply water weight, but it's significantly more important than that. When your muscle cells are more hydrated, it activates an anabolic signal that boosts protein synthesis and lowers protein breakdown. Think of it as establishing an ideal environment for your muscles to develop and flourish, even while you're lowering calories. Moreover, creatine has been demonstrated to boost the production of insulin like growth factor 1 IGF-1 in muscles. IGF-1 is a vital hormone for muscle growth and development, and having greater amounts of it may help you preserve muscle mass throughout a cut. This is especially significant since while you're in a caloric deficit, your body's natural production of anabolic hormones tends to diminish, which might make it tougher to hold onto muscle mass. Creatine helps offset this impact, giving you a higher chance of getting that desired lean and mean. Image. Another method creatine assists your cutting objectives is by enhancing your exercise performance. When you're attempting to shed weight, every rep matters. The more work you can perform in the gym, the more calories you'll burn, and the more stimulation you'll offer for muscular building. Creatine helps you to push harder and longer throughout your exercises by replacing your ATP reserves more rapidly. This means you may sustain greater training volumes even while eating less, which is vital for keeping muscle mass throughout a cut. Let's speak about something that frequently goes missed: creatine's influence on your metabolism. While it's not a fat burner in the classic sense, creatine may indirectly promote fat reduction by raising your total energy expenditure. When you have greater muscle mass, which creatine helps you maintain or create, your basal metabolic rate rises. This means you burn more calories even at rest. Additionally, the better exercise performance that creatine delivers means you'll burn more calories throughout your training sessions. It's a double punch that may offer your fat reduction efforts a considerable boost. But what about the notion that creatine increases water retention and makes you appear bloated? While it's true that creatine does raise intracellular water content, this doesn't convert to subcutaneous water retention, the sort that makes you seem puffy. In fact, the water retention generated by creatine is exactly what helps create that full, muscular appearance that many people crave. It's vital to remember that this impact is most evident in the first loading period and tends to settle with time. Speaking of loading stages, let's examine the ideal technique to utilize creatine for cutting. Many individuals ask whether they need to cycle off creatine or if they should lower their dose when reducing. The reality is, creatine is one supplement you want to have in your arsenal year-round, whether you're bulking, cutting, or maintaining. The normal routine of 5 grams per day is adequate for most individuals, and there's no need to load or cycle. Consistency is crucial when it comes to creatine supplementation. But what makes creatine so beneficial during a cutting phase is its capacity to help you sustain exercise intensity. When you're in a calorie deficit, it's typical to feel weary and struggle to maintain your regular exercise intensity. This may lead to a reduction in exercise volume, which can hasten muscle loss. Creatine helps minimize this by ensuring your muscles have a readily accessible supply of energy for those essential high-intensity workouts. This means you may continue to exercise hard and convey the signal to your body that it needs to retain onto its muscle mass, even when in a calorie deficit. It's worth mentioning that creatine's effects extend beyond only physical performance. Recent study has indicated that creatine may also have cognitive advantages, which may be especially beneficial during a cutting period when mental weariness and brain fog are frequent side effects of calorie restriction. By helping to maintain normal brain function, creatine may assist greater exercise concentration and adherence to your dietary plan, both of which are necessary for effective fat reduction while keeping muscle mass. Let's speak about the practical issues of utilizing creatine during a cut. Timing your creatine consumption isn't as crucial as many people assume. While some prefer to take it pre- or post-workout, the fact is that creatine works via saturation of your muscle cells, so as long as you're consistent with your daily intake, the time is less critical. What is vital, however, is keeping hydrated. Creatine attracts water into your muscle cells, so making sure you're drinking enough water throughout the day is vital for maximum outcomes. Another practical concern is the kind of creatine you take. While there are several types of creatine on the market, creatine monohydrate remains the gold standard. It's the most researched form, the most cost-efficient, and has regularly demonstrated to be helpful for modifying body composition. Don't be fooled by marketing hoopla surrounding alternative types of creatine. Stick with what works. Now let's address some of the issues individuals typically have about utilizing creatine while cutting. One prevalent fear is that creatine could somehow interfere with fat reduction. This couldn't be farther from the truth. Creatine contains no calories and doesn't alter your insulin levels in any substantial manner. If anything, by enabling you to exercise harder and preserve muscular mass, it boosts your body's capacity to burn fat. Another risk is that creatine could create stomach difficulties. While some individuals may suffer moderate stomach pain when initially beginning creatine, this normally fades quickly and may frequently be minimized by remaining well hydrated and starting with a lesser dosage if required. Let's get into some of the science behind creatine's muscle-preserving properties during a cut. When you're in a caloric deficit, your body enters a catabolic state where it's more likely to break down muscle tissue for energy. This is when creatine's anti-catabolic abilities come into play. Research has demonstrated that creatine may diminish the production of myostatin, a protein that limits muscle cell development and differentiation. By decreasing myostatin's actions, creatine helps establish an environment more favorable to muscle maintenance and development, even in a calorie deficit. Furthermore, creatine has been proven to improve the activity of satellite cells, which are basically muscle stem cells that play a critical role in muscle repair and development. This is especially crucial during a cutting period when your body could otherwise be less effective at muscle repair owing to the decreased availability of energy and minerals. By boosting satellite cell function, creatine helps guarantee that your muscles can still recover and adapt to training stimuli, even when you're consuming less. One frequently neglected component of creatine supplementation during a cut is its ability to increase nutrient partitioning. While the research in this area is still developing, several studies show that creatine may boost insulin sensitivity in muscle cells. This implies that when you do take carbs, your body may be more inclined to send them toward muscle glycogen replenishment rather than fat accumulation. This might be especially advantageous during a cut when you want to make the most of the minimal carbs you're ingesting. Let's speak about the psychological advantages of consuming creatine while cutting. One of the most tough components of a reducing phase is keeping motivation when your strength and performance may otherwise deteriorate owing to lower calorie intake. By helping you keep your strength and even continue to make progress in the gym, creatine may deliver a huge psychological boost. There's nothing more motivating than watching your lifts remain strong or even improve as your body fat percentage declines. It's important mentioning the long-term advantages of utilizing creatine across several cutting cycles throughout your fitness career. Each time you successfully retain muscle mass throughout a cut, you're effectively building upon your past progress. This cumulative impact may lead to much better outcomes over time compared to people who don't utilize creatine and may lose more muscle mass throughout each cutting phase. Think of it as compound interest for your body. Little benefits build up to huge differences over the long run. Let's address some of the myths and misunderstandings regarding creatine that can make folks afraid to utilize it during a cut. One prevalent fallacy is that creatine is somehow unnatural or a steroid. In actuality, creatine is a naturally occurring substance found in meals like meat and fish, and our bodies make it as well. Supplementing with creatine simply helps us to obtain optimum levels that complement our training objectives. Another misunderstanding is that women shouldn't take creatine or that it would make them bulky. This couldn't be farther from the truth. Creatine, is equally helpful for women and men, and it doesn't produce undesirable muscular development or masculine traits. When it comes to improving your results with creatine during a cut, there are a few crucial tactics to keep in mind. First, ensure your protein consumption is enough. Creatine acts synergistically with protein to assist muscle maintenance and development. Aim for roughly 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight daily. Second, don't be hesitant to elevate the intensity in your exercises. Creatine helps you to sustain larger training volumes, so take advantage of this by continuing to push yourself in the gym. Finally, be patient and consistent. The advantages of creatine compound over time, so stay with it even if you don't notice remarkable results in the first few weeks. Let's investigate how creatine might be especially effective throughout various periods of your cut. In the early stages, when your calorie deficit is still very minor, creatine may assist you continue to make strength gains while eating less. As your cut proceeds and the calorie deficit rises, creatine becomes even more essential for sustaining muscle mass and training intensity. In the last phases of your cut, when you're at your leanest and most prone to muscle loss, creatine might be the difference between retaining your hard-earned gains and losing critical muscle tissue. It's worth mentioning that the effects of creatine extend beyond simply the cutting phase. By helping you preserve more muscle mass during a trim, creatine sets you up for greater outcomes when you go back to maintenance or a bulk. The more muscle mass you preserve during a reduction, the better positioned you are to achieve additional increases when you raise your calories again. This generates a positive loop where each cutting phase gets more successful as you're able to retain more and more muscle over time. Let's speak about some of the indirect ways creatine aids fat reduction while keeping muscular mass. One frequently neglected advantage is its influence on rehabilitation. When you're in a caloric deficit, your body's natural recuperation capacities are slightly hampered. Creatine may help counterbalance this by lowering muscle damage and inflammation during exercise, enabling you to sustain a greater training frequency. This increased exercise volume, paired with greater recovery, produces a perfect environment for keeping muscle mass while continuing to burn fat. Another fascinating element of creatine supplementation during a cut is its possible influence on hormonal balance. While the research in this area is still emerging, several studies show that creatine may assist sustain greater testosterone levels throughout times of calorie restriction. Given that testosterone is vital for preserving muscle mass and assisting fat loss, this might be another method by which creatine helps you reach your cutting objectives. Let's examine the necessity of controlling expectations while utilizing creatine throughout a trim. While creatine is highly effective, it's not a magic bullet. You still need to stick to the core principles of fat reduction, maintaining a calorie deficit, receiving appropriate protein, and following a well-designed workout program. Creatine boosts your outcomes within this framework, but it doesn't replace the necessity for persistent effort and attention to your food and exercise regimen. It's also worth mentioning that individual reactions to creatine might differ. Some folks are what we term high responders and get remarkable improvements with creatine supplementation, while others could have more moderate advantages. This variety is mostly hereditary and doesn't indicate the supplement isn't functioning. Even if you're a low responder, the cumulative advantages of creatine over time are still helpful for supporting your body composition objectives. Let's speak about how to enhance your training while utilizing creatine during a cut. Since creatine generally promotes high-intensity, short-duration exercises, it's vital to arrange your workouts properly. Focus on compound motions and maintain the bulk of your sets in the 6 to 12 rep range. This enables you to maintain a high exercise intensity while also delivering appropriate volume for muscle maintenance. Don't be afraid to press close to failure on your sets. Creatine can help you recover between sets more rapidly, enabling you to maintain your performance throughout your exercise. One element of utilizing creatine during a cut that frequently goes ignored is its ability to help improve nutrition timing and meal planning. Because creatine helps preserve training performance, you may be more smart about when you take your carbs, concentrating them around your exercises when they'll be most effective. This may help you make the most of your limited calories when dieting, perhaps leading to greater overall outcomes. As we end off our detailed look at how creatine stimulates lean muscle building while lowering fat, it's important highlighting the necessity of consistency and patience. The advantages of creatine compound over time, and the greatest results come from continued, regular usage along with good exercise and diet. Don't anticipate quick miracles, but be certain that by continuously utilizing creatine as part of your cutting strategy, you're giving yourself a considerable edge in accomplishing your body composition objectives. Remember, the route to obtaining a lean, strong body is a marathon, not a sprint. Creatine is one of the most essential weapons in your supplement armory, delivering scientifically established advantages for retaining and even developing muscle while lowering fat. By learning how it works and how to use it efficiently, you may optimize your results and attain the body you've always desired. If the next time you're standing in front of the mirror, flexing your biceps, you can do it with the assurance that creatine is working behind the scenes to make you appear and perform your best. Looking for high-quality supplements backed by Dr. Andrew Huberman himself? Check out the links in the description below and subscribe and hit the bell icon if you've learned anything new or anything of value.